It was for kind of work you'll all recognize. It was for some impact mapping and performance modeling and curriculum architecture work we did globally for their distributors. And, you know, there's like 3 million of them. So it's very, you think about your target audience, right? It's fascinating. Okay, so that's a little bit about my background, a little bit about Innovative Learning Group. I thought the other thing is just a little bit about how I spend my day as an owner. So I spend about half of my day doing marketing and sales kind of things, and I spend probably about 10% of my time actually doing billable work, where I play a role. I'm, you know, the project manager on a learning or performance support project or something. And then I probably spend the other half, you know, worrying about IT and facilities and HR and hiring people and that kind of. I had 2 topics, and you tell me what's of most interest to you, because I can be really flexible. I thought on one hand we could talk a little bit about life as a consultant, I called it, which is much about, I think, careers and jobs and that kind of thing. And another thing I thought we could talk about was kind of the business side of HPT and ISD and things to worry about. Anyone, shall we do a multi-vote here? Or does somebody that have the trump card? Which one is more important? Kind of life as a consultant or the business side? Okay, raised hands. Life as a consultant? Okay, the business side? Shall we go with the majority rules? Or we can do a little of both. So, you know, if you think about possible jobs, I'm guessing most of you, some of you are thinking about that at some point? How many? All right. So if you think about it, we said, you know, you could work internally, so you can work inside an organization. You can work externally at a vendor kind of organization like ours. And I think another option is you can be a freelancer or a contractor. So what do you think are kind of the pros and cons of each? What do you think the pros are about being internal?
Stability.
Security, stability, big benefits. Those are kind of the cliche things you hear about, a big one. Maybe you stay with the organization long enough that you can see all the changes. You know, if you stay for 10 or 20 years, you're seeing all the initiatives play out. What about being on the vendor side, do you think?
Flexibility.
Flexibility, maybe?
I wonder about being internal. If it increases the likelihood that you're actually going to get something accomplished.
Do you think it increases or decreases?
Increases. In other words, if you're an external consultant, the path to hell is paved with great workshops and so forth that never get implemented.
You know, I think it depends, because I've seen both be real successful. Certainly the logic, if you're in there internally and you know the culture and you know the inner workings and you're there for the long haul, not just till the contract runs out, you know, theoretically that would help you be able to make a difference. There's certainly times, though, where I think once you're internal, no one respects you anymore. And there's some aura, you know, about being the person coming in from the outside that, for whatever reason, in some situations gives you this credibility that, you know, if you were the same person internal, no one would listen to you, but all of a sudden you're the consultant coming in from the outside and people do listen to you. So I think it just depends on the situation you're in and how well you do the engagement. Okay, and what do you think the benefits are of being a freelancer?
Time flexibility.
Time flexibility, you can work when you want, not when you want.
You work with who you want.
You can work with who you want. I think that's another thing about being a vendor is, you know, I mentioned that broad look at the industries we work across, and one day, you know, we're working with a plant grower, and then another day we're working with a chemical manufacturer, and another day we're working in healthcare. So it can be very interesting, you know, if you like that variety. I think the other thing then is you think about, and kind of another construct to think about, is do you want to be a generalist, or are you interested in being a specialist? And then some other words I used earlier in the day about that, you know, do you want breadth? And I think breadth goes along with being a generalist. Or do you want more the depth, which I think goes along with being a specialist? And I think you can do great either way. And what we talked about is some of it's just knowing a little bit more about yourself and what makes you tick. You know, do you like just taking a deep dive and you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, right, into a field, or do you get kind of, had enough of that, I'm really kind of ready to move over here and try that. In general, this is a very general statement, but in general I see people internally being more generalists. And I see, again, as a broad stereotype, I see people kind of on the vendor side being more specialist. And I think as a freelancer being more specialist. I don't know if your experience would resonate or hold that to be true. All right, so a couple constructs here, right? Internal, external, freelance, generalist, specialist. So the perspective that I can bring, you know, I shared my background. I don't have the deep psychology background. So I can't really share the career path for all of you that would be more, you call it a clinical path or kind of a social work path. I can't share as much of that. What I can share more of is the path more as a performance consultant and more in the training and the performance support field. So if we talk just a minute about roles, you know, you can play the role of a performance consultant. How do you think you're spending your day if you're playing the role of a performance consultant? Those of you that have done some practicums and whatnot, what are the kind of tasks you're doing? How are you spending your day?
Marketing. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Marketing your services to people.
Okay, so you're trying to get some work. Absolutely, yep, and that's going to be important across all. What are the kind of tasks you're doing? You're observing people, you're interviewing people, you're studying data, you're doing lots of analysis, right? You're creating solutions, you're implementing your solutions, you're evaluating your solutions. Pretty analytical work, okay? So that's one role. You can certainly play the role of a project manager. Mike was saying that was one of the jobs, or one of the jobs he's seeing a lot of, are people that can manage kind of performance improvement kind of interventions and get them done. So that's a key role for us at our firm, is the person that can manage the project. And for us, they have the key client interface, so the key relationship, and they manage the day-to-day work, and they oversee the team. And basically, they're worrying about quality and schedule and budget of the project. So that's a role you can play. You can play the role of an instructional designer. So, you know, deep expertise in adult learning theory and instructional strategies. You can play the role, for us, we do a lot of online kind of training now, digital. So programmers and graphic designers, probably that's, with degrees like you have, that's probably not the area that you would go in, but are certainly important roles in the field. I think often too, you know, I think it's important as you think about a career to think about what makes you tick all day, every day. You know, do you like to be by yourself out in the woods? Do you like to be, you know, at a cube with beige walls and 2,000 other people around you? Do you like to sit by yourself at a computer? Do you like to be out and about and on the go and in this meeting and on this phone and rushing and return this email and write this document and call back this client? Do you see how those are very different ways to spend your day? And you could do both those things based on your backgrounds and your education. So I think it's pretty important to think about just how you like to spend your day and what kind of, I always say, what energizes you. You know, if you think about a given day and at the end of the day you're just like, oh, that was tough. Oh, I didn't like that at all. Oh, I'm so boring or so tedious. You know, don't engineer a role or a career for yourself that feels that way. Pick the one where after you try it in a practicum or some volunteer kind of work, you get home, it's like, wow, it feels like it's only 8 o'clock. That was so cool. I was so energized by doing that. Those are the kind of things you want to kind of, you know, those words in your head that you want to listen to. And let that kind of guide you where you go with your career. The one thing I think, too, to think about, and I see it really helps people be successful or not successful and, you know, happy, not happy, and I know that's not very behavioral, but